Hi, I wanted to talk about this whole idea of self-talk and how to use it effectively for addiction, and in particular to separate yourself from your addiction, because a lot of people believe that they are their addiction. And we often talk about, self-talk, talk to yourself positively and, big yourself up and that. But it can be difficult because what happens a lot when people like fall into an addictive cycle or fall back into addiction, and particularly with a relapse, the conversation or the monologue starts in the head, like I'm rubbish, I'm this, I'm useless, I haven't got any willpower, I'll never get over this, and all of these are really negative thoughts and words that you're saying to yourself, and it's very normal. It's very natural to do that. It's because there's a sense that, well, if I beat myself up, I'm going to somehow change and get over it and initiate the change and suddenly become a better, different person. But that's not really the case. Because when you're in that sort of self-talk pattern, and it can apply to a lot of things, not necessarily addiction, but when you're kind of beating yourself up about something and you're saying, I'm hopeless. Why did I do that? Oh, I've no willpower. I'll never get over this. You're locked in this monologue where you cannot separate yourself from the thing that you are so annoyed about that you've done. And you get locked into this, like it's a monologue, and you can't separate yourself from it. And the way to get out of that and to change that is, as I put in the post the other day, and it might sound a bit bonkers, is to refer to yourself or talk to yourself using your own name. So, for example, I'll use myself as an example, Jane, why did you do that? Let's say I've had a relapse after 2 months of not drinking or 2 months of not gambling. Jane, why did you do that? That wasn't really a very good thing, was it? What was going on for you, Jane, when you did that? Because when you talk to yourself using your own name, and I know it does sound a bit odd because we don't naturally do it, what you're doing is you're creating a space, you're creating a psychological space between you and the activity. And you will notice this if you do it. And I want to encourage anyone who's watching this, who's struggling with negative emotions around addiction and self-loathing and all of that, is to practice this, to try it, and to do it every day. When you talk to yourself using your own name, you create a dialogue. Yes, you're talking to yourself, but you've created a dialogue. And when you're talking to anybody else, or let's say you're talking to a friend, you're going to talk to them a lot, well, generally speaking, you talk to them a lot nicer than you talk to yourself. It's human nature. You pull your punches a little bit. You're a little bit softer, a bit more compassionate. And as well as that, when you do this and use this form of self-talk, you also, you create that space, that psychological space, and you're bringing in objectivity into it. And it will encourage you to look at your action and your behavior a little bit more objectively. It'll help you to bring in more questions, to consider it more. It doesn't happen overnight. It needs to be a little bit of a habit to get into, and it's a good habit to generate. And I would encourage anybody to do it, and especially in the case of any relapse, because people feel terrible when they've relapsed, and it's human nature. Because let's say you've gone for 2 or 3 months without drinking, you've done really well, and then you have a slip up. It's like the 2 or 3 months doesn't even count. It's like you've gone back and it doesn't count. It's irrelevant. Why have I done this? I'm back to square one. I'm useless. I'm worthless. I'm a worthless piece of crap. This kind of language. I'm sure the language could get worse, but I can't obviously use it here. But people speak to themselves really badly, and it will not help. It won't help you to separate yourself from your addiction, which is what you need to do, to get some objectivity into it, to create that space, that psychological space between you and the addiction, because you are not your addiction. And talking to yourself addressing yourself by your name will help with this. As I say, it brings in an objectivity and there's a certain softness, and it creates a bit more compassion, and it will help you to see it a little bit more clearly. Because in order to change, you need some insight, you need some understanding into your behaviour. So I would urge you, if you're watching this, to try this form of self-talk, because the I am rubbish, I did this, I did that is ego-based. That's just you in a knot beating yourself up. So you've got to separate yourself from in that situation and create that space. It's absolutely vital, and it really does help. So I hope that's been helpful, and have a great evening. Bye for now.